As part of my Euro specials, former Liverpool, Manchester City, Bolton Wanderers and Swindon Town player, who is one of the world's foremost broadcasters and football pundits now, Mark Seagraves. Mark, good to see you. I hope your family and you are safe and healthy, and you've got them vaccines.
All vaccinated up, Hrishi. All good to go now. Just waiting for the all clear, not just in England, but across the world. I think we've had long enough in lockdown.
True. Mark, everybody kept talking about France being the overwhelming favourites, but Italy have silently gone and made this about them so far. Locatelli scoring twice in the game against Switzerland. He was actually a replacement for Marco Verratti. He wouldn't even have played under normal circumstances. Ciro Immobile again, devastating. And they're through to the last 16. Your thoughts on Italy?
Well, before the tournament, we've done an awful lot on the Serie A this year, so we know an awful lot about the players, and it's no surprise the likes of Locatelli is doing so well, and Immobile with his goal scoring. But they have the right balance. Italy, they have a really experienced defence with Chiellini and Bonucci. Midfield, they have creativity with the likes of Barella, Locatelli, Jorginho. And up front, they have goal scorers, not just Immobile, but they also have Belotti, who scored his ratio of goals in the Serie A. So I think they've got the balance right, and they're looking very good. They've unbeaten in 28 games. They've won the last 10, and they've had 10 clean sheets. So that's a recipe for success in my book.
Well, you're right. You mentioned Bonucci. The veteran played like a teenager and, defending against the Swiss as though his life depended on it. I thought you left out one player there, Spinazzola, the fullback. My God, running so much. You must have been impressed about that. Standout player.
Absolutely. He's been a revelation. He loves to get forward. And we've seen him as well also in Serie A. But yeah, I mean, he's done well. But, what Mancini has, he has quality and abundance. So if the likes of Spinazzola gets injured, then you've got Emerson to come in there as well. So you've got two players in near enough every position that would be quite comfortable and would fit in quite well.
Well, we always spare a thought for the underdog. I think it's an Indian trait. You got to spare a thought for Breel Embolo for Switzerland. He had so little service, Mark, and he was feeding off scraps, but I thought still brilliant.
Yeah, he's always a threat with his power and his pace, as we've seen in the previous game when he got his goal against Wales. But he's up against it. I mean, he's up against two. I know Chiellini got taken off early on in the game, but when you've got two stalwarts like that who want to defend, I mean, the way the modern day is, defenders don't really want to defend. They want to look good going forward and everything else. These guys are throwbacks, to how it used to be when I used to play, and they put the body on the line if it needs be, and they love to defend and they love to keep clean sheets. So, and Bolo was unlucky, and also he's only as good as the service he gets into him from his midfield areas, and that was thwarted by the way Italy played. I mean, Italy were fantastic.
Let's talk about Roberto Mancini a bit, Mark. He came to the helm under very turbulent circumstances. If you remember, in 2018, Italy's surprise failure to qualify for the World Cup. They sack Gianpiero Ventura, appoint him as manager. He's won the Serie A thrice with Inter Milan, the Premier League once with Man City. What do you make of the man? What to you is his biggest strength? Would you say squad selection? Would you say experimentation? What?
Discipline. I think he's very disciplined. His players are very disciplined. He won't accept them not doing as he wants. And with that, if the results are going badly, then obviously there's going to be dissent in the camp. But when the results are going as they are, I mean, they had a really good in UEFA Nations League as well, and that was the start of it. I think at the start he played something like 40, 50 players. So he was having a look at all the players, whether they were playing for fashionable clubs or unfashionable clubs, and to the point where we've talked about Locatelli, we've talked about Berardi as well, both at Sassuolo, who are not a huge club in Italy, but he's given all of these guys the opportunity to go on the big stage. And I just think he's, we know he's savvy, we know he's a football man, and he's got that respect as well from the players. And if you look at them, the togetherness and how they are as a team is fantastic. And when your captain goes off, Chiellini goes off and he's replaced by Acerbi, it was as if it was Chiellini still in there. So he's got all of them bases covered and they look good. I'm convinced they can win it not too convinced when you throw them in the likes of, as we see in France, Portugal, Germany, England. It's going to be a difficult task, but they're in there with that because they're scoring goals and they're keeping clean sheets.
A hard-fought win for Wales against Turkey, Mark. Aaron Ramsey actually fluffed two chances before he got that first goal. I like Bale displaying some skill to get Ramsey that goal, but even he blazed a penalty high. Worries for Wales, do you think? Are you like Rob Page? Because Rob Page came on later and said he's very happy with Bale, star of the game, in particular that corner that led to the second goal.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a soft spot for Wales because they're not far from my country, England. So, but the one thing that Wales do possess is one world class player in Bale who could, as we seen yesterday, turn a game on its head. And Adam Ramsey is playing at the highest level, and he's playing in the right position for me, just in behind the strikers when he can make them runs like we've seen. He fluffed his first one, but he never fluffed the second, and so we talk about Bale not scoring for, I think it's 12 games now, but the amount of the creating of goals that he's given is fantastic. And as we seen yesterday, he was involved in both goals, even though he still missed a penalty. But that doesn't mean anything. But while he's on form like that, and the likes of Ramsey's on form like that, you've got to realise they went deep into this in 2016 also. So yeah, they're not going to be favourites, but on any given day, they can upset the apple cart.
Your thoughts on Ben Davies, the Tottenham man? He was so good down that left side for Wales, winning 100% of his aerial duels and tackles, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen him play in the Premier League at Tottenham, not all the time in recent times, but the one thing about Ben Davies is he can play left-sided left back, obviously, but also left-sided centre half. So, the likes of Rob Page is looking for players that can do a dual role, if you like. And yeah, he was outstanding, as was everybody else, by the way. We're talking about the bigger names here, but the likes of Metham did really well, and all the even Roberts, who scored at the death, did absolutely fantastic. And give great credit to Rob Page, because when you're a lesser team, the one thing you have to have is togetherness. You've got to work together. You've got to work harder than the opposition. They did that, and if you remember in the first game, they were one down to Switzerland and managed to get themselves back in. So you've got that team ethic and that togetherness, and when you see at the end of the game, Gareth Bale in the middle of all of the players, telling them how good they were and whatever, that was fantastic. And they'll be a threat to anyone they play.
I thought Russia and Finland lacked quality from both sides, and one rare piece of quality from Alexei Miranchuk, and Russia ended up winning by a solitary goal. Comment on that game, please. Also, I was impressed by the Finland goalie, Lucas Radicki.
Yeah, he's had a good couple of games. Saved a penalty in the first game. I think the thing with Finland, it's their first bow into the Euros, and they obviously had the game against Denmark with Christian Eriksen. What happened there, to come through that and win the game, emotionally it must have been draining. Whether they have the quality in depth, I don't think, but I think this for Finland this year is just about getting that experience and hopefully getting through to the next one and making a better fist of it. But yeah, Russia weren't great either, but they managed to get over the line. We've seen a lot of Miranchuk as well. He plays for Atalanta in Serie A, and we know that he was creative. He had the quality, but that was the one bit of quality in the whole game for me from Russia. And it got them a goal and it got them the 3 points.
Let's talk England versus Croatia at Wembley, Mark. I thought the back four without Harry Maguire was suboptimal, but England must have been pleased to see Declan Rice and Calvin Phillips partner in midfield. And of course, Raheem Sterling and Mason Mount doing some clever stuff. So that game.
Yeah, I mean, that's always the problem for me with England is defensive wise, they're not great. Even when when Maguire is playing, they're not as solid as you would have thought the likes of the Italians are. But going forward, when you've got the likes of Kane, you've got Foden. I mean, you can even put Grealish in there as well, and Mount and Sterling. So they've got good players going forward. Defensively, not convinced. I was a bit worried when Southgate put Trippier in as a left back, because I'm thinking, the balance of the team would be would be all over the place, but it worked. So we've got to give him that credit. But then you look at the squad and you look at Luke Shaw, or you look at Ben Chilwell. How are they reacting to, not being given the chance to play ahead of a right back when Luke Shaw's played in the Europa League final, and Ben Chilwell's won a Champions League final, and Kieran Trippier comes in from a right back to a left back. So Southgate will have his work cut out trying to get them back on board. But at the end of the day, a 1-0 win, you still get 3 points as you would for a 3-0 win. The problem with England, it's the media back home, and it won't be enough for England just to win 1-0 scrappily. They'll have to win 1-0 playing like Brazil in their pomp in order to, to get people to back off, and then they'll have to win it. But they've got to win it 4-0 playing, superlative football. But hey ho, that's us.
France versus Germany, that a headline act. Paul Pogba was, of course, fabulous, but Germany was so disjointed in attack. The frontmen not firing, wingbacks failing, not having a pronounced effect in the flanks. It's not looking very good for Joachim Löw, is it? And if they bow out in the group stages, Mark, it's the second time in a row that's going to happen in a major tournament, and that's not very good.
It is. I mean, it was alarming when we seen what happened host World Cups for them. They were obviously ranked number 1, and then all of a sudden they find themselves, in, I think it's 10 or 12 in the rankings, and that's not like Germany. He's got a young side, a youngish side, the likes of Werner's there, Havertz is there. And the one thing I don't think they do possess is a proper out-and-out striker, number 9, who, is world-class. They haven't got that. Werner is okay. Havertz is okay. They're still young. They're still learning the trade. Volland, so that's for me is their weakness. But I would disagree with on a little point in terms of how they performed against France. I think, as the game went on, they started to show glimpses of what we want from a German side. And they made it difficult for France. France only won the game 1-0 from an own goal by Hummel. So in that respect, France dictated the game. They dominated in terms of possession, but they made them work hard. And going back to the France side of things, we're looking at them as saying, going forward, they're brilliant. They've got all of these attacking players, but it showed me on the other on the game against Germany that they can defend as a unit also, because at times they were under very much under pressure from Germany.
And what's football without a little bit of controversy, Mark? That Rudiger nibbling at Pogba's ear. Paul Pogba says it's no big deal. What do you think a UEFA investigation, if it happens, will throw up?
That'll be much ado about nothing, I think. I think throughout the game, players will say different things and talk to each other. And so, I mean, these guys have played against each other however many times during the season. They're probably just a little bit of banter. But UEFA won't get into stuff like that.
Russia versus Belgium. Russia were trialing a 4-man backline, and then at halftime they returned to a 3-man backline, but couldn't stop an inspired Romelu Lukaku. Your thoughts on that one?
Well, we've seen Lukaku play for Inter Milan this year, leading the goal-scoring charts. He seems to have gotten better since his move from Manchester United. He's just he's one of these players, Lukaku, that on his day, he's unplayable. He's got power, pace. And what he's added to his game now is a little bit of finesse. With his finishing is not as scratchy as it used to be. His link-up play is a lot better. His awareness is a lot better. Bearing in mind, he's got a good partner in Martinez and in Inter Milan. So he's very, very, very good. Belgium are very, very, very good. I don't think Russia would have thought they would have got anything out of the game. I think it was a case of damage limitation by the fact that he changed the system to accommodate them rather than think, okay, we're going to go out and give it a go. So I think the 3-0 was just about right. And Lukaku's carried on where he left off. He's got the 2 goals and he's looking to become leading goal scorer in the Euros this year.
The Spain and Sweden goalless draw, Mark. Tactically, it was intriguing. Lots of possession-based football by Spain. Obviously, Luis Enrique wanted it that way, but they created very little in front of goal. I have to say, Robin Olsen was superb for Sweden in goal, of course. There's already so much controversy about leaving Sergio Ramos at home for Spain. What do you make of Luis Enrique and his team and their chances?
I think, I mean, when you see Enrique what he did when the squads were announced, he only put in 24 players when you were allowed 26. So that was for me a little bit of arrogance to say, but the one thing with Spain is, with Ramos, that's not where their problem lies. Their problem lies with a finisher, an out-and-out goal scorer. So they had 85% possession, and I know stats can be misleading because a lot of the possessions in your own half from side to side and different things, but the chances that they did create fell to the likes of Morata, who's not prolific. Moreno's had a good season this season, but is not prolific. So I think that is where Spain will suffer, and it proved that when Sweden were able to keep a clean sheet against them, albeit with the goalkeeper Olsen playing a really good game.
Scotland versus Czech Republic, you got a feel for Scotland. A long ball fest is what I'd call it. 57 aerial duels. I've got the stats in front of me. 47 crosses. Scotland with a better side. 19 shots. But I guess it's just two moments of brilliance from Patrick Schick. Heartbreaking for Scotland, but that's football, right, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, again, Scotland are close neighbours to England, and you want them teams to do well, and we know a lot of the players that are playing in the Scotland team are playing in the Premier League as well and doing well, but I did feel sorry for them because they created so many opportunities, so many chances. And again, it falls down to that little bit of quality. If they'd have had a real quality centre forward, then I think the result would have been a little bit different. But having said all of that, when you've got a striker in the likes of Schick, who can do what he did out of nothing, I read a story as well about that because he'd seen Marshall play before, and he knew that he used to go further up than what normally keepers would go. And he said, if I ever got the opportunity, I'd just try it. And he got lucky because Scotland had a shot and it got rebounded back to him. And then he looked up, he seen it was off, and to actually, I mean, I couldn't hit it that far, but he's got it out of his feet, and he's just absolute fantastic goal.
Scotland, wish them luck. What else can I say? Netherlands, Ukraine. The Dutch having to work very hard. I mean, if you look at that game, it was goalless at halftime, and then so much drama. Dumfries was the man of the match, and then I guess when Wijnaldum scores, the Dutch seem to win. But well done, Ukraine. 3-2. It went down to the wire, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, they're my dark horses to Ukraine, because I've seen an awful lot of 5 and 6 of the players. I love the guy Malinovsky, who plays in Serie A for Atalanta. He was the one, excuse me, who sent a great ball in for them to equalise with. And the Netherlands got lucky, to be fair. They, 2-0 ahead, cruising along, and couldn't manage to keep the Ukraine out. And Yarmolenko had a really good goal from outside the box, and they got back into it. Naivety for Ukraine defensively, that's the key. But the Netherlands look great going forward. And, the one thing you'll get with the Netherlands is, quality football, sulky football. And as we say, they've got players as well that are playing at the highest level, and Wijnaldum is one of those.
Last couple of questions. Portugal-Hungary, frustrating first half for Cristiano Ronaldo, Mark. But 2 goals means he's the highest goal scorer in Euro history. Hungary were absolutely super, I think. They defended so well, and then along came Ronaldo. What is it that you can say about Ronaldo that's not been said before?
Yeah, I mean, Hungary were brilliant defensively, as you said. They had a little bit of luck with Guerrero with his deflected shot. That was in the 85th minute, I think it was. And then the next thing, Mr. Ronaldo comes over and scores 2. Nice penalty, and then he crowned it off with a really nice little finish. So yeah, you can't keep Ronaldo down, can you? The one thing he does do is he wants records all the time. With in the scoring charts as well. Sorry, I said Lukaku was leading goal scorer. It was Ronaldo leading goal scorer in Serie A. And the one thing that has eluded him, he's never been leading goal scorer in the Euros. So we know that from the game before that he's trying to put that one to bed as well. So he's got that on his sideboard. But Portugal look good. They've got a really good balance as well. They've got good young players, the likes of João Felix to come off the bench. 112 million pound footballer a year ago or 2 years ago. So they've got quality in depth. Jota, Ronaldo, all of these players, and they're in the group of death. We talked about Germany, we talked about Portugal. I'm hoping that all three go through, because there's 4 or 5 different places at the end for the teams that have the most points to go through. So let's hope that they all go through and make this the festival of the Euros even better.
I was absolutely mortified, and so were football fans around the world, when we saw what happened to Christian Eriksen on that pitch. Well, a big kudos to the medical personnel, of course, the teammates and the first responders. And I believe he's doing a little better, Mark. What was your instantaneous thought when that happened? I mean, and have you, as a broadcaster or as a fan, ever been in the stadium or in front of a television where something like that happened? I mean, it's just unbelievable.
There was one Mwamba who used to play for Bolton against Spurs, who had a similar thing, who managed to survive and get better. But it was shocking. I mean, I was doing the game, and when the reactions from players, if there is something really, really serious. And we didn't want the cameras to pan in, but I think they panned in once, and you're just seeing him. He just looked lifeless on the floor, and at that point you're holding your breath and you're crossing that he could obviously pull through it. And obviously the way the modern day is, with all of the scientific stuff, and the defibrillators are always there, and the medical staff are there. They were there within 30 seconds and managed to get him back. And obviously he's in hospital now and recovering. But that was a shocking moment for not just football, but for the whole world, and we've all said our prayers for him. He seems to be on the mend, and fair play to everyone involved in that, and give special credence to the captain, Kaya, who acted in an exemplary way, both in making him, put him in the right position, so he didn't swallow his tongue, to getting the players to come around him, to looking after his wife when she was on the side of the pitch. So all kudos to him. He showed an awful lot of humanity there that day.
So now, who do you think is going to win this?
Do you know what? I always want the best to win, whether it's in cricket, golf, tennis, football. So I'm hoping the likes of Italy, England, Portugal, all of the big names get there. But I also want a lesser country to get in there. That may be Wales also. So let's see. It's up in the air, and we'll only know in the next couple of days.
Catch Mark Seagraves on Sony Sports' studio show Football Extra for the upcoming UEFA Euro 2020. And if you're looking for live coverage, it's Sony 10.2, Sony 10.3. 3 has the Hindi feed. Absolutely a pleasure talking to you. Talking football in such a wonderful, positive vein. Thanks very much, and look forward to some great broadcasting from you. Cheers.
Thank you so much, Hrishi. Enjoyed it.